On April 13th, 2025, the Reverend Dr. Mark Y. A. Davies presented a service at Red River Unitarian Universalist Church on the University and Human Flourishing. Welcome from Red River Unitarian Universalist. Thank you for joining us. The religion we practice in this church is centered in the here and now, rather than the hereafter. It is more of a thinking kind of religion than a believing kind. It is governed more by reason than by tradition, more concerned with the present than the past. It is concerned with getting the most out of life, with living wisely and well. A major aim for us is continually expanding our understanding of life and ourselves. This church is a community of people who share in the free and open search for a level of understanding that will enable us to be more fully and effectively alive. The church does not tell us what we must believe. It stimulates us to think. It supports us in our search. You are welcome to join us. Our centering value is love, with transformation, generosity, equity, interdependence, justice, and pluralism.
Spirit of life and love, we have gathered here in the search of answers to hard questions. We have come in search of understanding, in search of community. We have come in search of hope and healing. Let this be a place not only of searching, but of discovery. Let this be a place of learning and of wisdom. Let this be a place not only of meeting, but of connection. And let this be a place where healing fosters giving and hope fosters service. This is our prayer, that we may create here a circle of love, ever expanding, ever growing, as we seek to know you, the source of our being. Blessed be. At this time, we have an opportunity to light the candles of community. If you want to light a candle for a joy or a concern, or simply to bring more light into our space. Let's stand together in body or spirit for our chalice lighting, our spoken affirmation, and the lighting of the peace candle. We Unitarian Universalists don't drink from our chalice. Instead, we use it to hold the flame. The circle of the chalice keeps the fire small. The flame doesn't blind us. It doesn't burn us. It gives us light. So we can see all the different things in the universe, even the visible ones, because the Unitarian Universalist flame is a light of learning. The flaming chalice is a symbol of learning and of love. It's our symbol, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Let's join together in our spoken affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and freedom, and to help one another. We light this peace candle to remind us of all the places in the world where there is no peace. Join me in the words now on the screen. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to hope, from fear to trust. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. You may be seated. And at this time, we'll have our stewardship moment.
Hi. I got called last minute because Jana couldn't be here today, unfortunately, due to health issues. And I was asked to share what brought me here and what keeps me here. And there's a lot of things, starting with when we moved down here from Washington State back in 2021, and I definitely felt like a fish out of water. And I knew going in, I keep up on trends and cultures and politics, and I knew that we were moving into a very conservative Bible Belt region. But it was still a little bit of a shock to me, just immersing myself in the culture. We live in Colbert, Oklahoma, and I started with a Bible study group through a Methodist church that was for people like me who were questioning. I've always questioned since a child about the existence of God and the Christian religion. And I spent about 1.5 years there and learned a lot, but also learned that it just wasn't a fit for me. It just wasn't a fit at all. And in talking to a friend of mine was originally from Washington State, moved to the East Coast to be with family, she said, you have a UU church, like within 10 minutes of your home. Have you ever looked into them? And I had, and I've heard of them. I had friends and people I got to know Whidbey Island that went to a UU church across the water and liked it, but I've never explored because I've never really been an organized religion or that kind of a person. But I was feeling a deep, deep need to find some kind of connection with people that shared my beliefs and my concerns about the world. And, I found it here. I was looking for a shirt to wear today and pulled out a shirt that I bought and wore at the school district I work in Everett, Washington, and which had a supportive, it was a gay straight alliance. It was run by students, but supported by a couple staff members. And it was a thriving, wonderful community of folks coming together, sharing love, and learning to live with each other and realize that we're all just humans exploring our path, and there's nothing wrong with the choices we make. I was going to wear it, but unfortunately I need to lose about 20 pounds, and it was a little bit too thick. But it just reminded me of the culture we came from and how I know that culture is necessary, and I know we can get back to that culture, even though we are struggling right now with the people that are in charge of our country. So I am blessed and feel honored that I have found this group of like-minded people who are basically, no matter what your different philosophical or religious background is, it's about love and acceptance, and that's what's important to me. I want to read a little passage. I got my new UU World magazine a couple days ago, There was a passage in it that I think speaks clearly to where we are with our pledge drive right now, because we are not in a good place with our pledge drive. We're sitting at about 52%, and this church cannot survive without more people stepping forward and pledging some money to help out to keep us alive. So let me share this. I thought it was appropriate and kind of speaks to the "it takes a tribe." Imagine many active rivers flowing in an abundant ecosystem, water pouring in and flowing through. You might see Rock Creek and other tributaries pouring into the Potomac and Anacostia and out into the enormous Chesapeake Bay, a metaphor of generosity and offering and receiving, asking for help and letting resources come, giving and offering when a situation for caring flows in front of you, understanding the system is too large for just a few to manage entirely. This was shared by Reverend Louise Green, who's an affiliate UU minister and currently serves as a spiritual director, eco-chaplain, and community organizer in Washington, D.C. and Maryland. So if you can find it in your heart, in your pocketbook, even if it's just a little bit on a monthly basis, you can always give more if it becomes okay for you to do that. I know we're all struggling to a degree. I know we are, since we're retired. We're on a very tight budget. But again, this community of love and kindness and generosity cannot thrive without more people stepping up. Thank you.
Our opening thought comes from Albert Einstein. In response to the following question, what threats to academic freedom do you see at this time? Einstein's response: the threat to academic freedom in our time must be seen in the fact that, because of the alleged external danger to our country, freedom of teaching, mutual exchange of opinions, and freedom of press and other media of communication are encroached upon or obstructed. This is done by creating a situation in which people feel their economic positions endangered. Consequently, more and more people avoid expressing their opinion freely, even in their private social life. This is a state of affairs which a democratic government cannot survive in the long run.
We give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for the old and young, for a time of wonder, joy and fun, for all we give as we grow and live. Oh, we give thanks for the old and young. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here, for those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Our next reading comes from the joint statement of the American Association of University Professors chapters regarding the ongoing crisis at Columbia University. We write to condemn in the strongest possible terms 2 recent and related federal attacks on Columbia University. The impoundment of some $400 million in research funds and the targeting by Immigration and Customs Enforcement of Columbia students and alumni involved in pro-Palestine protests. In particular, the detention of Mahmoud Khalil, who is a lawful permanent resident of the United States. To search for adequate precedent for these brazenly illegal and partisan actions requires looking to the worst days of the Red Scare or the Alien and Sedition Acts. Nothing in the Constitution permits a president to target his political opponents by defying laws passed by Congress or by detaining and threatening to deport people for their viewpoints. Yet the illegality of these moves is almost beside the point. Their architects quite candidly describe them as part of a wider crusade against higher education, an attempt to impose top-down control on what Americans teach, study, and learn. For a time of meditation, let us meditate on these words from Deb Cannon, Wiser Today. Let's take a moment to breathe in and out. In and out. I have made mistakes, and some I have even learned from. I am wiser today than I was yesterday, and hopefully tomorrow I will be even better informed. May I speak from my learning and not from my habit. If I speak from my habit, may I interrupt my words to start again. If I don't know, may I be silent and listen. Our next reading comes from Michael Roth, who is the president of Wesleyan University, from his writing, A Turning Point for University Leadership. Roth writes, university presidents must speak out against this attempt to control the political culture of our campuses, just as we should decry anti-Semitism and other forms of discrimination. We should insist that students and faculty have the right to make their voices heard about the issues of the day. Neutrality here is a betrayal of our academic mission. The protection of academic freedom and the free pursuit of truth and knowledge, I think, are critical to fostering excellence in our colleges and universities, and also to fostering the critical and creative thinking that are key contributors to a vibrant, participatory democracy. The American pragmatist philosopher John Dewey, I don't know if he ever officially claimed to be Unitarian at the time, but he certainly was, as a religious humanist, a close friend of the Unitarian movement. He lived from 1859 to 1952, and Dewey was a staunch defender of academic freedom and recognized its importance for the integrity of higher education and also for freedom and for democracy in general. In fact, in 1915, John Dewey was one of the key founders of the American Association of University Professors. On campuses, we simply know it as AAUP. And this organization, since 1915, has worked to protect academic freedom and to protect academic tenure as a way of protecting academic freedom. Because if you were not tenured as a professor, your president or someone who was influential on the president could easily get you terminated before academic freedom and academic tenure were put into place. Dewey recognized that without academic freedom, the ideological whims of persons with money and power could easily threaten the independence and integrity of our institutions of higher learning. So we're all in higher education very thankful for the work of John Dewey and the AAUP. It's difficult to overestimate the importance of education for the well-being of a functioning and flourishing democratic society. Education is central. Education is one of the foundational elements of a just and participatory society. It's a key aspect of working towards the goal of equality of opportunity for all persons. We know from the evidence, and I've spoken about this here before. We know from the evidence that the happiest, the least corrupt, the best educated, the most healthy, the most free, the most sustainable, and the most flourishing societies all embrace and support pluralism of thought, pluralism in relation to speech and action. And the coordinated and sustained attack that we have witnessed on educators and on education in the United States is a direct threat to pluralism of thought, speech, and action. In other words, it's a direct threat to freedom and human flourishing. We know the goal of education is not simply acquiring knowledge. It's not simply acquiring information. It's not simply preparing for a job or preparing for employment. The goal of education, ideally, is the cultivation of wisdom, which is the synthesis of knowledge and virtue and justice for the flourishing of all persons. It's critical, I think, to keep this goal in mind, this goal of wisdom in mind, especially given the coordinated efforts that we're seeing to reduce all education to job preparation. Education is not only about preparing us for labor and work within our economy, it's also about preparing us for free and participatory action within our shared world. Higher education has always been under pressure from ideological forces within our society for as long as there has been higher education. But the current situation represents an existential threat to the integrity of higher education and its ability to be a force for good and progress within our democratic republic in its work to cultivate an informed and engaged citizenry for a vibrant and participatory democracy. The current fascist regime is making a direct assault on academic freedom and the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression of all forms at our colleges and universities. The regime is attempting to control the research and teaching agenda at these institutions by defunding them, by defunding institutions of higher education and withholding federal funds for their research, unless those institutions bow down to the regime's ideological demands. Not only that, the fascist regime is now revoking student visas and abducting, detaining, and deporting students from our colleges and universities who have expressed criticism of the government of Israel and its actions in Gaza. They're simply taking them sometimes off the street, putting them in cars, taking them to prison, and no one knows where they're going for a while, and then they end up deporting them out of the country for simply having different ideas. In one case, for simply writing against war and genocide in an op-ed in a college newspaper. Defending higher education from this barrage of attacks from American fascism does not mean that we simply ignore the ongoing problems and deficiencies in higher education. Higher education has problems even without this attack on it, and we have to be aware of those problems and open about those problems. We have serious issues with access and affordability in higher education in the United States. Student debt has gotten out of control, placing students in a situation of debt servitude for large portions of their lives. There are other ways of funding higher education than the way we do. We are also plagued by increasing corporate control of colleges and universities and decreased funding for publicly supported higher education. And in publicly supported higher education, there's a reason I say publicly supported and not public higher education, because the percentage of the operating budget of those institutions is so low that's provided by public funds, that it's hardly the case that we should even call them public institutions anymore. But because of that, they have an increased reliance on student fees, on student tuition, private donors, and corporate money. And those private donors and that corporate money ends up having more and more control over those institutions, especially as members of those corporations and many of those private donors become members of the boards of trustees and make governing decisions about the work of those colleges and universities. But in spite of all those problems, and there are many, and they're ongoing, and we need to continue to work on them, but in spite of all those problems with higher education in the United States, students from all over the world have been attracted to U.S. American higher education because of its quality, because of the many opportunities for groundbreaking and innovative research, for its freedom of thought, expression, and action that they could experience while studying here. The current administration is diminishing everything that attracts international students to come study in the United States, and is making it dangerous for many of them to do so. And so many international students and scholars are already deciding that it's not safe to study in the United States. It's not safe to come and do research in the United States. They're deciding to go elsewhere. Instead of the steady brain gain that we have experienced for many decades, we are now experiencing a brain drain. And not only in relation to international students, but also with many U.S. American academics finding better research opportunities and also greater academic freedom outside of the United States. There's already an exodus happening of university professors, especially university professors who study totalitarianism, autocracy, and fascism, an exodus of those professors to leave the United States. This will make our country much less creative, much less innovative, and it will have lasting negative effects on the quality of life in our society. It is an evil and intolerable situation for international students, or any students, at our colleges and universities to be abducted, detained, and deported for using their right to think freely, speak freely, and act freely in ways that are doing no harm to others. But this is the situation that we currently face as American fascism attempts to assert its control over our colleges and universities, the students who attend them, and the faculty who teach and do research at them. In a tragic twist of history, Columbia University, the very university where one of the greatest champions of academic freedom taught for most of his career, that John Dewey that I mentioned before. He taught most of his career at Columbia University. That university has become the first university to capitulate to the ideological demands of our current regime. And American fascists would like the capitulation of Columbia University to those demands to be the first of many dominoes to fall. American fascists are already extorting other universities like Northwestern University and Cornell University, together something like $1.3 billion in withheld funding, unless they meet the ideological demands of the administration. Higher education leaders across the country must resist this. They must build a wall of resistance so that not one more domino will fall to the bullying of a fascist regime. In the end, it is better to lose funding than to become a puppet institution for fascism. We cannot allow the false identification of all criticisms of the Israeli government as being anti-Semitism, We can't allow the categorization of every criticism of Israel and Netanyahu as anti-Semitism to be a catalyst for fascist repression in the United States. Nor can we let it be used as an excuse for the killing of knowledge. It's a fancy word for that, epistemicide, the killing of knowledge. We are witnessing the killing of knowledge across various sectors of our society in the attempt to make the United States more white and more fundamentalist Christian again. It would be difficult enough for many colleges and universities to weather the storm that's coming, to weather the recession we most likely will experience in the very near future. If it were just a recession that colleges and universities had to deal with, which is most likely coming in the very near future, that would be difficult enough. But when you couple this with the current direct attacks on higher education, it is tragically the case that a significant number of our campuses will have difficulty surviving over the next few years. But our colleges and universities must not lose their souls simply for the sake of survival. But institutions of higher education cannot fend off these attacks on their academic freedom and their integrity alone. They will need the help of the public. So even though we haven't publicly supported these institutions with enough money for their operational budgets, we now need to publicly support them against these attacks on their academic freedom and their integrity. They need all those who believe in the importance of knowledge. They need all those who believe in the importance of wisdom to join in the resistance to keep our colleges and universities from becoming puppets controlled by the ideological strings of a deeply racist and fascist regime. And so I close by simply encouraging us all to join the ongoing efforts to keep their hands off our higher education for the sake of preserving a just and participatory democracy for us all. This time we have an opportunity for giving. You may bring your gifts to the bowl, or there's also opportunities to give online.
Join voices in our closing hymn. Life is the greatest gift of all, the riches of this earth. Life and its creatures, great and small, of high and lowly birth. So treasure it and measure it with deeds of shining worth. Mine is the brightest gift of all, its thoughts will bear
It waves the wind, it chains the storm, it waves the utmost stars. We are of light, this shining gift, the measure of all things. Up from the dust out of the swift, and vision soars on wings. For seed and root, for flower and fruit, our grateful spirit sings.
Our benediction comes from Amy Zucker Morgenstern. In every person we meet, especially those who cause us discomfort, we find an opportunity for us to grow, to learn, to go further along the path of transformation that is our purpose in life. Every single one is our teacher. May the next week bring you many such moments of meeting that help you become the person you want to be, and may you welcome them with joy. Let us join in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish these flames, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.